Played almost a full college game's worth of minutes last night, and you pop into the facility here the next morning. Just how's this going in terms of learning the flow of NBA life?
Yeah, I think it's going really well. I think it's cool for guys in like my position to kind of get out there, compete, and then come back and just learn from the main guys when we're here like in practice and in this kind of setting. So it's been going really well.
How'd you feel your conditioning was to play? I think 38 minutes last night.
Yeah, it felt really good. I was luckily in college. I was kind of I was able to play a lot like that. So it was cool to kind of get out there and kind of learn through my mistakes a little bit. Kind of take the ebbs and flows of the game, and then come back here and just like apply it to kind of more condensed kind of stretches. So it's been really cool and really good for me just to learn.
How, was last night special for you? Just kind of being from that region.
Yeah, for sure. I'm an Indiana kid for sure. Born and raised there. So it was really cool to kind of get back there. I was able to see some friends, see my family. They're able to see me play. So it's always a blessing for sure.
Do you have any memories in Cambridge Fieldhouse growing up at all?
A couple. There was a player that played for my dad in high school. His name was Andre Owens. He played for the Pacers a little bit. So I remember like my earliest memory there is going to see him play, and just seeing him after the game. So it's kind of cool that my dad and mom and brother were able to come see me play there. So it's kind of full circle moment for sure. But it was cool, for sure.
What Mark was just standing here a second ago talking about your ability to improve just across the board. What have you seen improve most after a couple weeks of camp?
I think just learning. I think I've been blessed to be in this organization and see kind of, the strengths of the guys ahead of me, and just to see, what I can kind of, pick and choose from their game and try to apply it to mine. But the main thing for me is just trying to play hard. I feel like if I can play hard and, play hard on the defensive end and try to affect the game there, I think everything else usually takes care of itself. So that's all I'm really trying to do. And then every day coming back here, like you said, like we played a long game last night, then had a good practice this morning. So I'm always just trying to be a sponge and learn. So that's really what it is. Just trying to improve everywhere like that I can and in any way that I can.
You mentioned learning quite a few different times. Last week, AC talked about your willingness to learn and just the humility it takes, and that's what he likes to see in rookies. What have you learned the most from those guys, and has that always been your approach of just sort of being a sponge?
Yeah, for sure. AC's been great to me too as well because I remember we played Charlotte first time here in Oklahoma City, and there was a play where I kind of got beat or kind of got lost like watching the ball on the backside, and I just kind of went up to him and Lou and kind of asked him like, hey, like what should I be looking for on these plays, and they were able to kind of break it down. And there was a play yesterday actually where I think there was a foul that was called, like a charge, but like I actually made the adjustment and I actually like stole the ball, but it was they called the play dead, so it didn't really count or anything. But it was cool to just kind of start to put it together, and it was like second nature when I can ask guys like that and then apply it to the game. So I've definitely always trying to been like that. Even when I was in college at Northwestern, I was kind of looking, at Boo, Pete Nance, like Chase O'Dee's guys ahead of me. I was trying to learn from them, and then I was able to kind of step into my own. And I'm just trying to do that here, just trying to learn from anybody that I can. And it's just so many great sources to do that from. So that's all I'm trying to do.
Lots of times rookies come onto teams and there's so much change in the NBA, the roster. You're one of several guys that are new. It's not really the case with this team. It's a lot of returning guys. What are the positives and are there challenges when you step onto a team with so many guys that have been together for a long time?
Yeah, I think there definitely are a couple of challenges, but it's a blessing to have those challenges. Like it is going to be hard being like the only new face, but in a way I kind of look at it as it's very exciting for me because like I think I talked about it a little bit, but everybody on this, roster is an NBA champion, and I'm the only one that's not. So I have to add something, to a whole new kind of journey that we're about to take this year. So for me, it's just gonna be playing hard, being somebody that these guys want to, be around, and just uplift people, whether it be on the court or off the court. So I'm really just trying to do that every day I come in, and hopefully I can keep growing in that space.
Mark, if you guys get reattached to the guys that stayed back, just wanted to see if you had any updates on how those guys are doing, and if you're going to anticipate you may have some guys back for Tuesday.
Yeah, we're going to travel some guys on Tuesday, but it's also preseason, and we're being cautious with anybody that's got anything. So it'll be a mix of guys, but all the guys that have been out with injury-related things are progressing nicely in their own way. And we're, like I said, we're trying to use the preseason to, first and foremost, get healthy, and then second, get ourselves ready basketball-wise.
At this point in your tenure here, are you inserting new things, or is it just a lot of carryover from previous years, especially with the bulk of the team being the same?
In training camp, it's really about, building an identity and then, really honing the fundamentals that ladder up to that identity. And then we use the regular season to do a lot of layering, and that's where a lot of the new stuff will come in. We've got a couple new things that we've done, but they're subtle. The main stuff doesn't really change. Like you got to space the floor, you got to get back in transition, you got to guard the ball, you got to execute your coverages and execute your plays. And the minute you skip that step in pursuit of, something new, you have slippage. So we always start from scratch every year. That's just our philosophy.
2 weeks into camp, you guys had such a short off season. Did you do some things differently? Are you sort of seeing the fruits of that 2 weeks in?
Yeah, the guys did an unbelievable job of ramping up, despite a shorter off season. They all came in. I was very curious to see what kind of physical condition we came in, and the guys were in really good shape. And even watching, the higher minute playoff players the other night in the first half against Charlotte, I was curious to see what we would look like there. And I thought our conditioning was very good, which, was kind of the first, big rock that you got to deal with. And so that was the thing that was most impressive. And we've handled the camp well. We've had guys we've had guys in and out on the travel and stuff. We've done workouts back here. So we've had some fragmented days, but the guys are all attacking it. And I think we've really progressed forward. And then we'll use this week to really come together as a team and get ourselves ready for the start of the season.
You've got, obviously, you've got so many of these guys back. The fact that it has maybe been, you have to do some things differently when you're dealing with sort of all the factors you're dealing with. The fact that you've got so many guys that know what's going on,
yeah,
I have to think that just helps ease your mind that, like, you can be different and it'll be okay.
Yeah, I think conceptually for sure. They understand what's going on. Everyone understands the terminology. Everybody understands what we're trying to get done. But you still have to go through the steps. You have to build the habits. These guys haven't been in a closeout all summer. They're not out, in their individual gyms. Yeah, they're not closing out. They're not running back in transition, and they're not playing together. And so those are things you can't skip the steps on. And so that's what we do this time of year. And it's redundant, but that's what goes into the game of basketball. And they understand that. They're competitive and they're intelligent, and they know that.
A lot of times we talk about shooting luck, and often it's like 3-point shooting luck, good process, the shot just rimmed out. It seemed like Kaysen manufactured some really nice cracks to the rim, but the ball just kind of rolled off last night. What did you make of his downhill attacks process and ability to get to the rim?
Yeah, one of the things about this preseason is we've been able to put him in some really good developmental situations because he's still a young player that's got a lot of runway, and these games have been good for him. The ones that we haven't had everybody. And he's done a nice job. But yeah, there's shooting luck at the rim too. I think we shot 5% lower at the rim in the playoffs than expected based on our own internal numbers. Like, you are right. People think about shooting luck from the 3-point line, but there's shooting luck, or I shouldn't say luck, there's shooting variance in every area of the floor. And in the playoffs, it's expected that most teams finish a little worse for whatever reason. But we finished way worse than expected. And so that's a good thing. We've got some opportunity there and something we can improve on.
Caruso, when we were talking about, Shea said he's the most competitive guy. He comes in every day like he's trying to make the team. Is that something that you noticed early on when you got here, or is that something that you've seen him grow into?
Both. He's always been a good competitor, and as time's gone on and as he's, broadened his perspective and become more experienced and wiser, he understands the purpose of practice. He knows how important it is to prepare. And so he is a great competitor and takes every day seriously and works really hard. But he's also in an environment of competitors. If you took a great competitor and you put them in an environment with a bunch of guys that are apathetic, they would become very frustrated and they'd probably dull as a result of that. So as much as I like the compliment Alex has given Shea, the compliment's really to the whole, because if you're in this gym and you take one day where your foot comes off the gas, there's a lot of other people elevating you, and Shea's one of them.
You've talked about this. I think Sam has too. This is a new team, even though the roster is relatively similar. What have you seen about this new bunch? What's different about this group? Anything stand out? I know you haven't played a game that counts yet, but
yeah. Some of it is just like in a vacuum, the individual changes guys have made. I think there's a lot of examples of that. Shea, some of his subtleties as a playmaker. Hartenstein's body he's bigger, coming into the season. Chet physically and game-wise. Kaysen Wallace's game. Jay Will obviously really tightened his body up. AJ Mitchell looks stronger physically. Dort came in with his best body comp, in 5 years, I think. So a lot of it is that, and then, just more chemistry, nuances. That's where we have to get better because, there's no guarantee that the things we were good at will carry over. So we need to constantly figure out ways that we can improve, and then address regressions that happen as they come up.
Last week with Brooks, you mentioned that with first-year players, there's a lot of growth and for fundamentals with him. Is there anything in particular you're seeing a long runway for him that he can really improve on?
Brooks?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like everything. He's a hard-playing guy with a great motor, great physicality. He's got all the ingredients that you need to play in the biggest games. He's got a lot of good stuff, but he's very unrefined, and I say that as a compliment. It just means he's got a long way to go. Examples would be, he's in the lane, he's trying to respace, he doesn't really know where to go, so he's just like running around in circles, making everybody dizzy. And then like in transition, he'll go to offensive rebound, which we want him to do. Defender will get the rebound, and he kind of hangs out in the backcourt where it's like you go pursue the rebound and then you get out. Those are like subtle little things that he's going to improve at 100% because he wants to, and they're controllable and easy. They're just like habits that, you can't wake up in one morning and get, but he'll get them.
Just good to see K. Rich out here, just kind of interacting with the guys, even though he can't necessarily participate. What's it like having a guy with his voice in the locker room still be able to hang around like this?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things about this team is just the chemistry that they have in every facet. It's the chemistry on the court, obviously. It's the chemistry in competitive situations, huddles, half times, and then it's the chemistry in these quieter spaces, and he's valuable in all of those.